Hello and welcome to the Badge of Politic. I'm Scott Stearns.
This is Paul Stickle. Are you sure this isn't the Maple Leaf Politic?
I am back from the Brewers exhibition game. I went and saw them play the Toronto Blue Jays.
Many people like to go to get a tan to catch spring training games.
Yeah.
Scott Stearns here goes to Canada to see the spring training.
Right, I did not go to Arizona.
He's still shivering.
I went to where it's still snowing.
Right.
It literally was still snowing.
Wisconsin is not enough for Scott.
No.
He had to go north.
I came back home, and it's like a heat wave here.
You didn't even go to Toronto. Like, you went for the
Brewers playing there. I kind of had to go.
So we've got some victories and maybe some defeats to discuss.
But Milwaukee Bucks, 56-19. Got a few weeks left in the season before the playoffs kick in. They're 4 games up on Toronto, I believe, at this point.
Well, it looks like they have a magic number of 3 to clinch the top spot, so that would put their chances probably north of 90% of getting that.
And today they would play who? And who's in the 8th spot?
That's a big mess down there at the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoff
picture. Detroit and Orlando. And
it goes from 6th seed all the way down to 10, which would be 2 seeds out of the playoffs. They're separated, all 5 of those teams are separated by 2.5 games.
Very fluid.
Yeah, so it could be any one of the 5.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
But they've been doing okay. I mean,
Washington's still in it somehow, but they're way behind.
Well, I mean, the last game I went to, they didn't do well, and I was a little concerned that they were going to go on a little bit of a slide. But they haven't done that. They've been winning games. Without Brogdon, Bledsoe had like 24 points last night.
What is a slide when they only win like 3 out of 5 or something?
Right. I guess it's all relative.
I mean, their worst stretch of the season, they went on a 17-game stretch where they won only 9. Mm-hmm. They went 9-8 the slump of the year.
Yeah, that was the losing streak.
I think they had a win against Golden State in there somehow too. That was like their cold snap.
Yeah, not to be arrogant about it, but obviously we like where they're sitting today. I mean, 56-19. I mean, who would have thought at the beginning of the season that was where we were going to be at the end of March?
Let's just put it this way: the Pfizer Farm's first couple of years are actually turning out really well.
I would say so, between this and the DNC next year.
Democratic Convention. Right, so we got something that's not quite I wouldn't call a victory.
The Mueller reports?
Yeah, it's out.
Yeah, well, it's not out. I mean, there's a 4-page release from the Attorney General that's out.
It's been suppressed, but it's to the point where it's been somewhat defanged, the Mueller investigation now.
This was fairly predictable, though. You knew that
entirely predictable.
Whatever results were going to come out from that investigation, their automatic response, no matter how bad or good or whatever the report said, their approach was going to be, let's put out a release saying, nothing to see here. And that's exactly what they did. And now I think it's a matter of running out the clock before the full report is released.
Sure.
If it is.
Sure.
If it is released at some point, I'm sure it'll be redacted on some level.
Right.
And then they can still claim that there's nothing to see here.
It's sort of like investigating an arson against a very skilled arsonist and trying to convict him before a jury of his peers. I mean, yes, and he happens to be clumsy too.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a fire, and yes, there was a gas can next to the fireplace. But hey, he's a clumsy fucker, so who knows? He might have kicked it over.
Right.
During one of his Twitter rants, you know. Well, who's to say? That's the way it's going to stay until November 2020. Well, there's no question about it. And the real jury are the swing states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
Yes, come next year.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we haven't been spending a lot of time emphasizing what was going to come out of the Mueller report, because it's not something that...
I had no expectations for this thing. It's about what I would have expected.
Right.
In fact, I feel like the air is almost cleared, and allows us to focus on the issues.
Well, that's true. So why waste time spending on it?
And by the way, how have we done with the issues since Trump's been president?
Well,
I would argue really well.
Right.
In terms of arguing
when the focus is on the issues and not all the peripheral stuff, it's better.
We did not win over Scott Walker because of the Mueller investigation.
Right.
We won because people were concerned about losing their pre-existing condition health care. That was the number one thing. That's what flipped it.
Yeah.
That's why Tammy Baldwin walked to re-election.
Yep.
And a number of vulnerable Republicans fell, and more could have fell had the fallen. I should say, had the Democrats had adequate, from what I was told, smarter field campaigns on the ground. I recently heard from somebody who was involved in Florida, and there were some missed opportunities down there. which might have actually worked to Milwaukee's benefits in terms of getting the DNC, but there's a pretty good chance that better field campaign could have captured Florida for both Gillum and Bill Nelson.
So the Mueller report came out over the weekend, and then Trump immediately...
Wait.
Yeah.
This is from the White House, so you did this. So this would be...
White House insanity check.
Okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom.
So Trump pivoted from the Mueller quote-unquote victory. He took a victory lap and then immediately pivoted to the Affordable Care Act and said...
He's going to make sure it's gutted.
Yeah, he said to the Senate Republicans, like, now we need to go after health care. And came out on record saying he encouraged the Justice Department to advocate for eliminating the entire law. Not just like around the edges, but eliminating the entire law.
So take health care away from 21 million Americans.
Yeah.
Strip protections for pre-existing conditions, I think, from 171 million Americans. It's something like 130 million Americans, and then strip lifetime limit caps from 171 million Americans, which is almost everybody that's not on Medicare.
All of it,
by the way.
Everything from that to kids being able to stay on their parents' insurance till they're 26, all that stuff. Everything that was in the Affordable Care Act.
This is not to make light of what could actually happen.
Yeah.
This would be terrible if it happened. And I know that they want to do this anyway.
But this is what doomed them last year in the 2018 election. So there are a lot of Republicans in Congress right now that are not very happy about this new stance.
So listeners, here's the thing. I've had this issue over the last 2 years. When Trump does something that looks like it's insane, I want to believe it's insane and he's just undermining himself. But I totally believed that back in the fall of 2018. Like, for instance, we made fun of him for campaigning in Eau Claire and going to Minnesota, which he didn't quite win. But we made fun of him for trying to win Wisconsin, and look what happened. He won Wisconsin, he won the White House.
Sure.
Maybe I'm just overlearning the lessons from campaign 2016, but part of me wonders when I see something absolutely batshit insane come out of the White House, if there isn't some secret plan that's going to be better, and they'll have their last laugh sooner than later.
Where there's a rhyme, there's a reason. You know?
Right. I mean, is he the skilled arsonist, or is he kicking over cans of gasoline into the fire?
I just think there's an arrogance there that he thinks
that's quite possible.
I think it's just
hubris.
Trump thinks that because of the positive press that they were able to push on the heels of the Mueller report, I really think that he believes his approval rating is going to jump like 20 points.
Trump appears to maybe be jumping the shark on the ACA stuff. If I were Trump, I would quietly be doing that, not talking about it.
Really, it's just a matter of that he doesn't have that many smart political advisors around him anymore.
Yeah.
They've all left. They've either been fired
even
or
like Steve Bannon
quit.
probably wouldn't have let him say that.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
I think John Kelly would have told him, like, hey, shut the fuck up.
Priebus would have just said, wait till we get reelected, then you do all that shit.
Right.
Open up your can of whoop-ass in 2 years. Mm-hmm. Right. Wait on it.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's hope we open up our own can of whoop-ass because we got our health on the line, a lot on the line.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things that happen to unpopular leaders, sometimes they lose elections, and that's what they did in Wisconsin in 2018. Mm-hmm. Basically, at the executive level, the Republicans had a clean sweep. In other words, they were swept out of office, all of them.
Yeah, except for the ones that were gerrymandered and kept their seats in the legislature.
Level,
yes, but
none
at the executive
of them
level, the Dems swept all statewide
The Democrats
races.
won Tony Evers, Mandela Barnes, Josh Call, Sarah Godliski, and then, of course, a holdover from whenever.
Mr. Doug LaFollette.
Mr. LaFollette held on as well.
Yeah.
Kind of modestly, interestingly enough. But anyway, the Republicans did keep the legislature because they have it very, very well gerrymandered. Despite getting fewer votes, they still captured almost two-thirds of the seats.
Yeah, and then they passed these lame duck laws when Scott Walker still
lame
had
duck
control.
laws, with an eye potentially to permanently gerrymandering, by the way, even though that didn't actually happen in the bill, but they were trying to screw up the Supreme Court election next year. That could help them on that, and they did a number of other pretty bad things in lame duck laws.
So these things have been challenged in court by the Evers administration and other groups, unions and others. The Democratic Party, I believe, is party to one of them. I think there's like 4 lawsuits going on right now. So we've had 2 rulings. The ruling last week threw everything out. Now an appeals
because
court...
they improperly convened.
Yes, they called into question the whole idea of the extraordinary session.
Right. Well, part of it was how they did it.
Some technicalities around it.
Right.
It was overturned today by an appeals court judge. However, there was a ruling, was it yesterday or Monday? It was yesterday,
Yeah, the hearing was Monday.
Yeah, the hearing was Monday. The ruling was yesterday, and that scaled back some of the laws. It took away the ability of the legislature to have ownership over litigation at the state level.
It overturned the bulk of the lame duck laws, basically. And that was Judge Remington, who was a Scott Walker appointee to the bench in Dane County. I thought he was pretty conservative. I was there in the hearing. I thought he asked really hard questions out of both sides. I actually thought he was pretty rough on our side, to be honest with you, on a few things. For the most part, he seemed very fair, and he wound up ruling mostly fair. I would actually say he should have thrown all of them out, but he did at least say that he will consider throwing out the other provisions that he did not throw out later, because he said he has more questions than answers, even about the things he let stand. He just threw out the stuff that he knew wasn't okay.
Judge Remington that threw out the
and you got a great quote from him.
He was appointed by Scott Walker. He halted enforcement of a key provision of one of the laws that gave lawmakers, instead of the governor, final say on whether the state attorney general ends or settles the state's involvement in lawsuits. It also suspended a measure that allowed a legislative committee to effectively block rules that the administration advances, and that's a very important function of the governor, is to make rules around laws that are created. That's kind of a critical. And the
governor still will have those under his ruling. Because the previous ruling now got overturned today, got stayed, and now his ruling is still in place.
Right. So this is a great quote, and again, this is a Scott Walker appointee. He said, quote, "The legislature has the power to change the responsibilities assigned to the Attorney General, but it may not castrate his or her ability to act as the lawyer for the state of Wisconsin, nor can it constitutionally usurp the power of the executive branch." He also responded to lawmakers justifying the laws simply by giving them a seat at the table, as they've tried to say. He was quoted as saying, "Even the casual observer cannot miss the fact that this rebalancing of power, quote unquote, and the defendant's repeated demand for a seat at the table was not considered until the voters elected a Democratic governor and attorney general." So, if this was such a concern that there was not a balance of power, that was a non-issue the past 8 years.
It's a legal concern that comes into play after the public said no.
Yes, after the public said
to their policies
that we disagree with what this governor's approach is, and we're going to make a change, and they basically sought to negate all of that.
This brings up the need for good jurisprudence, though.
So we've got a Supreme Court race that is literally around the corner.
To replace Shirley Abramson.
Yeah, Tuesday, April 2nd.
Shirley is sort of the Ginsburg of Wisconsin. So we're losing a big one
here. Yeah, she's been around for a long time.
A really important cog.
Was Chief Justice at one point.
If you want to see lame duck laws continue to be overturned, if you want to see fair redistricting, because the state Supreme Court, there's case law, really does have the say on redistricting.
Absolutely.
It gets to decide whether the governor has any say in it, pretty much.
If Lisa Neubauer is able to win next Tuesday, need to win. If she's able to win over Brian Hagedorn, that sets up a big race in 2020. Daniel Kelly is up for re-election, and it sounds
he's in trouble.
He may not even run next year, so that may be an open
interesting
seat.
That would probably indicate that if Hagedorn loses and they decide that Kelly is not their guy, if they think Kelly's too weak, they'll put up a stronger Republican. So that just shows how high stakes this is.
But he won't retire. He won't retire because that would allow Evers to appoint.
No, he won't retire, just not run again. But he won't run again because the Republicans will say, we're not going to fund you because we don't think you're strong.
Yeah.
And they'll push somebody that they think is much stronger.
Sure.
Ideally, that at least even that candidate that they would push would probably be more moderate and mainstream.
With this lot, you really think that's the approach they're going to take?
They're going to look for a good candidate because they're going to be up against Democratic presidential primary that day.
But look at who they brought in recently. Rebecca Bradley. I see more of that ilk.
I think they're going to shoot for something really strong, even to the point where it may be somewhat more moderate.
I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll see. Hopefully, Lisa Neubauer prevails on Tuesday. I think we feel very cautiously optimistic about her chances.
I would say based on how the Dallas election went last year,
it's a lot like
she won by 11 points, I think we said.
It's a really similar dynamic in this race. You have a female candidate who's more progressive. You've got this very conservative Republican candidate with some stuff.
He's been tainted by some bad stuff in his past in terms of organizations that he's been affiliated with. I would say, just given that maybe there's some motivation on conservatives to get out and vote, given that they've been challenged in the state recently, I would say that there's probably a good chance that Neubauer wins by maybe about half the margin that Dallas got.
So
5.5
52-47, kind of 53-47.
That's what I'm going to say for next Tuesday.
It's interesting because when you were up in the Great North, he started his ads.
Okay. I have not seen any.
Like a big blitz they started.
And what did they say?
They basically, it's not his, but it's like Republican
organizations that are on his behalf.
I believe so. They basically tie him to Trump themselves.
Okay.
So they're not trying to get a majority of the voters, but they're trying to just excite their base.
Sure. They're trying to motivate people to come out.
It's not a bad theory if it works.
That's what I would do if I was him.
If they could get half of the people who voted for Scott Walker in a losing effort last year, they would have almost 650,000 votes, which would be far more than even Rebecca Dallek got last year. That said, they clearly made that move because they're behind. My guess is that the hope is at a minimum it closes the gap so it doesn't scare off good candidates. It was looking like a Neubauer walk about a week ago, and so they decided to put a blitz in place at the end, and I think they're going to close the gap considerably, probably to about what you're talking about. So I'm going to go even.
You're going to go even narrower,
just a little closer. I'm going to say
about 4 points.
3. I think it'll be 51.5 to 48.5, and that's my over/under. There's a chance we could lose.
All right,
but I do think we probably win by about 35,000 votes out of about 1.2 million casts.
Well, at least we both agree that it looks like a victory, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. The ceiling might be a little higher, but there still is a floor that gets us below 50%. Yeah. And so we could lose narrowly.
Yeah.
Just like what happened with Prosser-Kloppenberg. So watch out. Let's get out and vote. Get Neubauer through.
Yeah. So prediction-wise, another prediction we have to make is we've got opening day starting tomorrow. Brewers opening day, Major League Baseball's opening day. So what do we think? What the Brewers are?
I think they're an 87-win team.
87. Okay,
that's my over/under. I think that I take a more cautious approach. Right. I think the division's tightened. I don't think that it's going to take 95 or 96 to win a division. I think it'll probably take about very low 90s.
Okay.
And I wouldn't call them the favorite for the division, but I would say that they're probably in the hunt. So
I'm going to go slightly more optimistic than you. I'm going to say 89.
I think you got some bullpen worries up front. It's going to slow them down.
Yeah.
Unless the offense comes out like gangbusters and carries the team for a while they wait for their arms to heal. I think 87 might be even a little generous, honestly, given the pitching worries. But I think they're above 500 team.
Oh, for sure. They're going to be in the hunt. They'll be in the top 3. I'm going to say 89 wins. I think that's what I'm going with. I
won't be shocked if they take the division.
I think I was thinking 90 last week. It looked really good in Montreal against Toronto. They had a 10-5 victory, but again, that's an exhibition game. Take that for what it's worth. You don't know who's going to be hurt. You don't know who they're going to have to pick up to fill in.
What are the odds they make the playoffs?
I think pretty good. I would say at least 60 to 70%.
I'll go 45. Almost.
Really?
I want to go 50.
45% chance they make the playoffs.
I think I'm right on the edge. I think you got the pitching problems. Yeah. That's a big ding. On the other hand, they fortified their lineup with Moustakis, but then you have Moustakis play at second. I just think it goes up and down. You have a strength. I wouldn't be surprised for a second if they made the playoffs, but I also wouldn't be shocked for a minute if they didn't.
So go Brewers.
Yeah.
And get out and vote on Tuesday.
More importantly, let's win on Tuesday, and then we'll worry about the rest of the Brewers' schedule and the Bucks, which will go months later.
Lots going on, folks. We'll talk about it again next time. Forward, everybody.